Okay, that's now on. And I just thought that's a great place to start, don't you think? And if
So this is what, taking pictures of recording.
it's taking a movie and recording the sound. Is that okay with you?
Fantastic.
Yeah. I just thought it's a great
I
archive.
didn't realise that.
And particularly if somebody's going to write, it's always good to see somebody's expression because you can
Okay,
say things
as
differently.
the answers are being given.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
your character's in the answers as well.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we go both ways, I think that's good. So if we talk about the state bank, and same it's when I sort of know from. So if we go chronological, we'll work on the state bank, and then what came after that, and then eventually we'll come back to Leighton's. We might move back that way.
Okay.
All right. So starting with the state bank, I guess the first thing I'm interested to know is, I guess the circumstances that came about, and from what I know, Leighton's was done, which I guess established you had the ability to do an office like that, and then I just don't know because I came when it was designed.
Yes.
So I'm interested to know.
And the state bank was interesting because it started off that we were asked to do the temporary offices in Elizabeth Street, and we did a design for it, which I thought was really very good. Nick Whitlam thought was very good, but the chairman had someone else do the design, so they did fit it out, their temporary offices.
Oh, okay.
And I said to Nick Whitlam that I was a bit disappointed. He said, "George, just wait, because we gave the chairman his due, and then we can have what we want for the real thing." So that's how we got
Nice
the
trade.
2 floors.
Yes. And was the chairman Cutler then?
Yes, Robert Cutler,
Yeah.
who had more of a conservative bent.
Yes.
And when I gave the presentation for the design and the finishes, Nick Whitlam said to me, "You didn't stint, George," which I thought was a lovely comment.
Yes.
Yes.
And you said that you were asked to do the temporary offices. How did that come about? In other words, how did you get to know Nick Whitlam?
It was very simple. Neville cornered Nick Whitlam at a cocktail party, I think in Leon Finks or something, one of those eastern suburbs dudes, and just filled his ear and said, "When you need officers, get George to design them for you." It really, he just went, and I remember seeing him talking to Nick.
So it was a shot in the dark, like you wouldn't have known there were officers coming up. It's
absolutely not.
Yes.
It was just one of those,
For
you
sure.
know Neville.
Yes.
That they're this kind of, outgoing
Yes.
thing. I've got something in my head, I'm going to say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have charmed the pants off him.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yeah. Not just networking and going
No,
through
no,
job,
no,
it would have been
no,
delightful.
no. You just,
Yeah. Okay, so then you got the temporary works, and then that moved on to the bank. And at the time, the bank wasn't built, was it? It was.
no.
Do you know?
The building was just designed and being constructed.
Yeah.
It wasn't off the ground yet when we started. So by the time the floors, we got up to level 35, 36, we had finished our documentation, which was quite, if you remember, extensive. All the drawings now are at the Mitchell Library.
Wonderful, yes. Good.
But it was such, the whole development of that project was, in a sense, the creation of Marsh Freedman as an office with talented people coming in. Maybe it was a bit over the top in terms of the amount of staff, unnecessary, and maybe the amount of documentation was excessive, but it was part of learning how to do it. Never really having done that before.
But Leighton's would have been a good, almost sort of setting out parameters, setting out things, because you did that. So that would have been, not that you were lacking in skills, but in doing it in an office sense and doing it for a commercial builder.
Leighton was sort of good practice in that sense. Yeah. And it was not, Leighton was not a difficult thing to produce.
Mm.
And I think it was done probably more efficiently. Most of it, I think, was documented by a government of Michael White.
Yes, yes. Who went on to Nettleton Tribe or Tribe? Went on to the people that did the building at the Alarm. I think he went on to work for them.
He had been at Alan Jack and Collier
Okay.
before he came to me. He ended up as a banker in New York.
Yes, smart.
Yeah.
So just on that, tell me then, George, about the people. So before the bank started, what was the nature of the office? It was you and Neville in Woolloomooloo?
Yeah, in Burke and Cathedral Street, in the building that Glenn Murcutt had designed for us. And we had different guys over the years. There was Michael White.
Yes.
There was a very talented young snooty South African, whose name I can't remember, good designer. Different people over maybe a course of two or 3 years while things were getting going. And they would do drawings, I would do drawings, and we were doing a lot of residential stuff that came within Neville's bailiwick, and oh God, I can't really remember, but there was Leighton's and a lot of stuff.
We can look at the sort of later on. We can look to see what those projects are.
There were things like an office. I can't remember what the company was. It wasn't Westinghouse. An accounting firm, Price Waterhouse.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And that project came through the husband of a residential client.
Yes. Yes.
That kind of
Yes.
thing. So there's this terrific crossover.
Yes. And nice repeat business and being
a lot of
referred.
repeat business of clients coming back, of clients, and it went on and on and on. Clients that we did work for in the 70s, and then they would go to new houses, and we would do the new house,
Yes. Yes.
and then they would do the eldest daughter, the second daughter,
Yes.
the son,
Yes.
and then their office. And it just, for one family, you might end up with 7, 8 projects over the years, over 25 years or 30 years.
Yes.
It was fascinating.
Nice compliment for you, because that's saying you're doing something good that people appreciate.
And, I'm still doing things for clients that I did stuff that Neville and I did in the 70s.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. So just on that, you would have been you and Neville, Michael White, and when I started, you were recruiting. So
we were recruiting, and I think Michael was already gone.
He was. Yeah. Ian was there though. Ian Halliday was halfway in, halfway out. I think he was studying, or
because Ian left when we were stalling order imports, and Christian bit everybody's head off, and Ian decided that he found all that too distressing. And fled.
Yes.
He said, I can't work in this kind of atmosphere where the crocodile bites everybody's head off.
And Ewan was there too, so Ian and Ewan were there when I started, and then Arthur and Stephen
and Arthur Collin.
Yes, and they were all. Oh yes, Arthur had been there a while before we came along.
Yeah, because Arthur and Ian worked on order imports.
Yes.
And someone else. There's someone, because I remember when they were drawing up that pattern for the circular rotunda, the sphere and the
Trilon and Perisphere. Yes.
From the World's Fair, and they said, "What are you talking about?" He was too young to know.
Yes.
Trilon.
Trilon and Perisphere.
Trilon and Perisphere. I can't remember who did it. I think it could have been Arthur.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a license area
Yes.
for the orders thing.
Yes.
So romantic kind
Yes.
of thing.
Dramatic and
And suited the client and the product.
yes.
And then there was this sort of almost kind of hysteria on my part on how we produced the drawings. It just kept on
Yes.
hiring people.
Yes.
And it did become an overload, and I do feel in retrospect it was quite inefficient
Yes.
in
Yes.
that respect. I
Yes.
think you might,
Yes.
looking back at it, have the
Yes.
same kind of
Yes.
reaction.
I guess it's that shift from doing a different
Yeah.
scale to a bigger scale, and
Yeah.
one would presume there was money to keep all the people going.
Yeah, and there
Is
was
it
always
those,
this
isn't it?
frenzy of fees and blah,
Yes,
and things
yes.
like that. And it seemed as if there was an office boy that was there solely to walk the Scotties at lunchtime and empty the ashtrays throughout the office.
Yes. Yes.
Because everybody was smoking.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
You just stink of cigarettes.
Yeah. 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 And everybody would have their walkers.
Yeah, all you hear was the
Yeah.
and nobody could answer the telephone because they were all just listening to their their Walkmans.
Yes.
So we banned them.
Yes, exactly. Because we had the two buildings there, and I can remember Neville coming over one day saying, or you, I think it was
Yeah.
Neville, no more
No,
Walkmans because I've been ringing and I can't get anybody.
Yeah, nobody would answer because they were going listening to shit music.
Yes. Thinking that about that early design, when I came, you had the plan.
Yep.
You had a model with all the finishes in it.
Yes.
And how did that come about? Because I know Ian had a part on that. Obviously, you and Neville had. Tell me about the beginning of that process, because you've got a building being built, a brief.
We had the floor plan, and then I developed the office plans,
Yeah.
and then the furniture layouts, and then the per room furniture selection and color schemes.
Yeah.
And so to demonstrate it, so we built the model at 1 to 50, and for each piece of furniture, put the actual, reproduce the carpet color as the floor in velvet, with a sort of purpley, mulberry color from memory, and then put on every piece of fabric that was going to represent what the piece of furniture was in its location. So when the client looked at it, there was the complete realization of what each room was going to look like. It was an excellent sales tool, and it was the kind of thing that I learned at Knoll as a demonstration of how you demonstrate to a client what their interiors go. And the very first time I came in 1969 for the presentation for the Bank of New South Wales, we built the same kind of model.
Yes.
Then, and this was at Pedalthorpe, when they were the architects, and I, as Noel, came to Australia for the presentation, and we built a model. It was, they understood what it was.
Yes.
Simple.
Did Pedalthorpe do something like that, or that really is something that came with Noel?
No, it came with Noel.
Came with Noel,
Yeah.
yeah. And was that, when you presented that, I remember the model, when you presented that, was that the first time Nick Whitlam would have seen it? In other words, because it's a pretty highly resolved thing.
Yes, it was completely
and it's
resolved.
pretty well what was built.
And we had, as well as the model, we had images of all the actual furniture, and every sort of reasonable memo-sized piece of fabric and stone, all laid out per room, so they could have the model and then each room.
Yes.
So it was a complete schmaltz
Amazing
presentation.
And that's the first pitch.
Yeah.
Amazing, because so much work was done for that, and that's what was built. Minor changes.
Well,
but
look, before no. I mean, before that, there were planning discussions in terms of layouts and group relationships in the planning.
Yeah.
So that was pre-resolved before the pretty stuff.
Yes, and they would have seen plans of that. You had floor plans to show the bank that, or it was just discussion?
Yeah. Maybe we would then sit down with two of the bank guys and go through
Yeah.
the planning to satisfy
Yes.
them in terms of who was related to who, you know, how the secretary related to the executive, and
Yes.
what the little functions of tea rooms and everything.
Yes. Yes.
And so they knew, but prior to the pretty picture thing,
Yes.
that the plan itself
Yes.
was organized and set.
Yes. And you, I guess, for your point of view too, you know, you're not wasting time on detail when the fundamental things aren't in place. They've got those in place.
Yeah, I mean, you have to sort of get, you have to resolve their planning problem first.
Yes. Yes.
Before you put pretty stuff on it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who we did that with, but it was one or two people
Yes.
within the executive branch of the bank
Yes. Yes.
who knew, the relationships, and then
Yes.
yeah.
A good comment on it. Yes. It's interesting too because so much work is done in putting it that stage, and that, as I said, that's pretty well what was built. But you'd think of the amount of work from that model to construction is enormous.
Hello.